The Blue Devils head out on the road this weekend as they head to Chapel Hill. It's the battle for the victory bell. And, of course, the Blue Devils also looking to get to the postseason for a fourth consecutive year, a lot on the line. They're also looking for the first time in a decade to win all of their conference games away from home. So much to battle for this weekend. Apropos of the battle for the victory bells, we welcome you inside Blue Devil Tower. David Shumate alongside Dave Harding as always, and I kind of laid out the whole buffet there. Obviously, the ACC title chase is still in reach. Needs some help down the stretch as well, but when you stack it all up, I don't want to speak for you. I imagine you could care less about any of that. It's about beating Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What do they say? Just throw out the record books. Nothing else matters other than going out and getting bragging rights, and in a rivalry that I think is unlike anything else in really the world, in the college space for sure, with the proximity of both of these teams. This one means a little bit more because you're living amongst all of these folks on a week-in, week-out basis. To be able to go assert your dominance against the Tar Heels means a heck of a lot, and that's worth fighting for. I've been part of teams where we didn't have much to fight for in terms of bowl eligibility, anything else, like looking at 3-9, maybe we're 3-8 at the time, and to go out there and it's a chance to refocus. It's an opportunity as a team to come together, the senior class that has seen success against the Tar Heels of late, to go out on a high note. And I think it's fitting, and it's actually helpful for this Duke team coming off of the losses back-to-back, UConn on the road this past week against Virginia. Got to flush that, put it all behind you, and it's easy to do it when you see that logo across the way.
And what a sweet way it would be to clinch bowl eligibility for a fourth consecutive season. It would be back-to-back wins over North Carolina for the first time since the Blue Devils won 3 in a row. You go back to when Daniel Jones, of course, the star quarterback for the Colts now, 2016, they got it done. 2017 over on the road. That was the last time the Blue Devils won in Chapel Hill. And then Daniel went crazy in 2018, running the football all over the place. So, I mean, you think about this group and everything that they have accomplished here at their time at Duke. And we're going to talk about this a lot next week when we preview the game against Wake Forest. But, Dave, all week talking to the seniors and kind of reflecting a little bit. I know they're stuck in the moment and they still have a lot to accomplish this year, but I don't think it's lost on any of us what they've done these last 4 years, including getting the bell back.
Yeah, this game is where memories are made. The highlights from this game get seared into your memory, and you start to call certain games in history by one or two plays that occur, like the Jamison Crowder catch. Every Duke fan knows what I'm talking about. That's the 2012 game. Think about the Brian Fields interception return. That's actually the last time the Blue Devils went on the road in Chapel Hill and won on the little jump pass from Surratt. Those type plays live in history. And even in talking to Daniel Jones, he was in town for the Virginia game last week. I asked him what are his favorite memories from his time as a Blue Devil. Beating Carolina 3 times in a row, running all over them at home to get the victory bell to stay in Durham is one of those memories that he'll never forget. And it's a highlight of his career. So for this senior class, for everybody else on this roster, you've got to realize that what you're about to go do, not only does it help set you up from a momentum perspective and getting bowl eligibility and everything for what is still left to be attained and to achieve this year, more than anything, you have a chance to go write history. You have a chance to go, we talked about the pride element, but etch your name amongst the Jamison Crowders and the Daniel Jones as a Blue Devil and make some big-time plays. We know that this one's going to come down to the wire. It typically does. You know that there's going to be a lot of emotion in it. It's a matter of who's the player that's going to step up and make big plays. And for the Duke team in general, defensively and offensively, there are a lot of young players mixed in, but you got a feeling that some of those seniors playing in their last matchup against the Tar Heels are going to be the ones that this team leans on to step up in a big way.
And obviously, full reset this week. We're participating on the broadcast side. New microphones, and I've graciously conceded control of the clicker to Harding.
Here we go.
He's
scary.
Yeah, we're going to look at some stats
See
here.
if it works.
I mean, it is interesting to me to look at these two teams. I'm sure you'll dive into some of the individual stuff, but I'll do the broad strokes. When Duke is on offense, it's strength on strength. The Blue Devils really good offensively, obviously. Carolina's been stout on defense. They have a really good pass rush. And then when you flip it around, it's two sides of the ball that at times have had their moments, but also, Dave, at times have struggled for both teams this year, the Blue Devil defense and the Carolina offense.
Yeah, the statistics of it do tell that story, and that's what really I want to dive into. I'm not going to look at any one statistical category in particular. It is a strength against strength situation in this game. And the Duke offense, unfortunately, was not a strength for this group last week against Virginia. So my big focus coming into this one is how does a player like Brian Parker along the offensive front react to having had a bad game a week before? The Duke defense only gave up 17 points to Virginia in the first half. Not necessarily an outstanding effort, but enough in what we had come to expect from this offensive unit to have kept you in the game. In fact, they still were, even though Duke's offense wasn't able to muster any points. That's got to be better this coming week. And if it is truly strength against strength, Duke's strength, which has been their offense, which has been pretty balanced attack with a running game. Obviously, Darian Mensah, we all know what he's capable of doing. They've got to show up, and they've got to show up early on because they've got a mighty test. The strength of this Carolina defense is along the defensive front. So the Blue Devils and their ability to establish a run game is going to be critical. Carolina has been very good there. Conversely, the Duke defense has struggled to get off the field, particularly on third down. Carolina's been a little bit shaky. We've seen numerous quarterbacks in there. Their offensive line has been a mess, mainly due to injury. And that becomes, you don't ever want to say weakness against weakness, but it's a matter of which area on either side of the ball, when Duke's defense is out and Carolina's offense is out, is able to make the bigger plays. I like leaning on the Duke defensive front. They've been stout all season. They've got an ability to be explosive, but this one's going to come down to Duke's offensive line against Carolina's defensive line, and then on the other side, who can get off the field or force the turnovers on the Duke defensive unit against the Carolina offense that's still seeking an identity.
Of course, the Blue Devils have a tremendous pass rush as well. We all know about the edge rush with E.J. Anthony and Wesley Williams. We see the attention they get week in and week out. Teams at times have abandoned the drop-back passing game in favor of quick stuff just to get it out of the quarterback's hands. Melkart Abu-Jaude has 10 of the 28 sacks for North Carolina. You've been in those meeting rooms as an offensive lineman. I know you're worried about your individual assignment, but when there's a guy like that with crazy stats like that, what is the approach? Does everyone on the offensive line know where he is, regardless of whose assignment it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Where my eyes, even as a former offensive lineman, go now, when I look at a depth chart, I'm looking for stats that pop. And one of the stats that pop, just in productivity, is that 10 sacks. He's the real deal, certainly a threat. And the problem is you don't want to overreact to the production that he has shown and making it a little easier for someone else who've accounted for the other 18 sacks to come out and make big plays. So you can't double team somebody over and over again without leaving some vulnerabilities somewhere else. But there's got to be respect. There's got to be attention there. I think when you put those stats, the production, especially of the front, on the line against the performance that we saw, kind of a blip in the radar, if you will, for this Duke offense this last week, there's going to be pretty big edge coming into this game. They didn't feel like they were physical enough. They felt like Virginia got the better of them. That's the first time that we can say that. Even against the Clemson front, that it was very talented, very good. This Duke offensive line has been able to establish a little bit of ground game. They've been able to protect Darian Mensah. Last week was not the case. So I think there's no lack of respect. There's no lack of attention and focus on the task at hand, and I would expect this front to come out and react in a positive way.
Speaking of reacting and playing in a positive way, there has been something about this team this year. You start to think about the arc of the season. Syracuse had all this momentum, a win over Clemson, a sellout crowd. They go in there and they thump them pretty good. You're heading out to California. They're feeling pretty good. The students are lively. It's a night game for them, and the Blue Devils take care of business, forcing all those turnovers. You head down to Clemson. Dabo Swinney's talking about November to remember. They're going to rally around the troops. Another sellout, they go in, they take care of business, win it at the end. This team, you've been a part of some of these teams as well, obviously back in 2013. What is it about these Duke teams that when you go on the road, not that you don't like winning at home, but it's that much sweeter to do it in front of a sellout crowd?
I think sometimes it can help you focus just a little bit more. I was always better. I'm a little undersized. Offensive lineman, wasn't all that powerful at the point of attack, but play with an edge. Find little ways to help elevate you over your opponent. And when you go on the road to some places, it's certainly going to be the case this week, you're not necessarily greeted all that warmly. You got to go out there and warm up. You're looking at everybody filling up the stands. It just helps. Not necessarily that you're not focused or there's not the attention to detail in other games, but it just gives you a little bit of the hair on the back of your neck sticks up. And sometimes that's the difference between, we've been talking a lot about the offensive line, a pancake block where you're finishing somebody down the field, or maybe letting off 7 yards down the field where that defender can reach out and make a touchdown saving tackle. This game, it's pretty simple. It's about winning your one-on-one matchups and doing so with great physicality. But the margin for being great and having explosive winning plays and just good enough, maybe moving the ball, is very fine. And so sometimes, to answer your question, having that adversity at your back helps get you over the hump.
Normally at this point in the podcast, we give you a player to watch, but we all know these rivalry games are a little bit different, so I'm going to peel that out, make it a little more broad, I guess I would say, because, we began talking about Daniel Jones. Now, he did it as a youngster, to be fair, but as an older guy as well. You think about Trey Freeman, who had that pick last year to seal it. Jamison Crowder will never forget that catch. And Brian Fields, I throw in this camp as well. There are more. We could go back through the ages. But it does feel like it's always older guys making plays late in the game to win it. So this entire senior class, you think about Chandler Rivers, you think about Samir Hagens, you think about some of those guys up front that we've been talking about, and Aaron Hall, who's a captain on this team. One, I guess from your perspective, why is it that older guys always seem to pop in a game like this? And maybe, I know I'm catching you flat-footed here, but off the top of your mind, is there an older guy that you think could, maybe we'll get the Chandler Rivers pick six. We haven't had one yet this year, and it seems like it's tradition for him.
Well, I think kind of leaning into what I was just talking about, finding your edge. Typically an older player who's seen this rivalry before is motivated by history and what they remember. Maybe it's the expectation of going out there and winning like the Blue Devils did last year and kind of come from behind fashion. Maybe it's remembering a little trash talk that somebody said, or the way somebody didn't treat you all that nice and you've been watching them on tape and you want to go out there and get your revenge. Having that history and having played in this game before definitely makes it a little bit more real, and it helps elevate you all throughout the week in practice because of what you're seeing on the other side of the field, that Carolina blue. There's also a sense of slowing the game down. And as a senior, you're able to see things that you couldn't see as a freshman. To take it back to an offensive line, you're in that 2-point or 3-point stance. You can see a defender leaning a little bit one way, or maybe the alignment of a defensive end is outside a little bit further, indicating there's going to be an inside pressure. Those type of things are often a tip, which gives you a beat on making a big play. And that's why you see some of these upperclassmen, the game is going slow, the emotions don't take control, they add a little bit more and they can go out there and make a big name. I'd love to see a Chandler Rivers pick six, to answer your question. I think along both lines of scrimmage, oftentimes those guys aren't necessarily the ones that you see on Sports Center making a big-time play, but I would expect maybe a senior or an upperclassman to go lay a big block on a run, or a defensive lineman, extra effort on a strip sack, something like that being the difference in this ball game.
Well, it will be the 112th meeting between these two in the battle for the victory bell as we start to wrap this up. A teaching moment for everybody. Curious to get your perspective. You have some time to think about this, but everyone knows 8 miles down the road, all the different stuff, basically living in two towns that are right next to each other. So tailgating is always tricky. One of my favorite things about when you go over there, where we call the games, that Brian Fields pick six, he was running right to where all the Duke fans were and kind of in that corner of the stadium. And there will be plenty of Duke blue over in Chapel Hill this weekend. But when you're might be some few hardy folks tailgating over on campus in Chapel Hill, but if you're tailgating at home before you drive over to the game, I know the blood starts to boil as you get closer and closer. So what do you tell people in terms of how to manage the emotions as they're building through the day before they head over to Chapel Hill?
Oh, were you talking about how do you eat to manage
do you eat
emotions?
early because your stomach's going to be churning once you get towards 1 o'clock?
We got a 3:30 kickoff. Yeah. That matters. You can get up early, breakfast, maybe turn around and get a lunch in before heading over to the stadium, obviously before turning on your radio. I think slow and steady wins the race here, because a 3:30 game means you're probably snacking a little bit during the game. You need to reserve some space for a big celebration dinner after the fact. I know I will be doing so.
That.
So you don't want to go out too early, and that's got to be in the back of your mind, and certainly keeping room for dessert. But tailgating, whether that's in Chapel Hill or not, definitely got to be part of your Saturday schedule.
Save a little room for a celebratory beverage or two once the game is over.
Wait, I wonder if the bell, you could flip it upside down and use it as like a crock pot of some kind and cook some good stew or something. I don't know.
See?
Maybe a leg of lamb.
There we go. Now he's ready. All right, we're looking forward to Duke and Carolina this weekend. As Dave told you, it'll be a 3:30 kick over in Chapel Hill. ACC Network has the television coverage. We'll have you covered on the radio beginning at 2:30. See you guys this weekend.